Well, welcome back. The Supreme Court's decision to hear the case spells a period of political uncertainty for Turkey. But what will the court actually decide? Well, it could ban the Justice and Development Party. Wouldn't be the first time the governing party has been ousted from power in Turkey. In 1997, the pro-Islamist Welfare Party was dissolved. However, there are fears that banning the party this time could lead to civil unrest. Or perhaps the court will throw out the case. Secularists fear that would only strengthen those seeking to increase the role of religion in public life in Turkey. While others fear the secular campaign will undermine religious freedom of expression and the principle of democratically elected government. Well, the tensions produced mass demonstrations last year. We're still joined by our guests in Ankara, Suat Kınıklıoğlu, Osman Coşkunoğlu and Doğu Ergil. Thank you all for being with us. If I could start with Coşkunoğlu this time. If the court rules in favour of the ARC party, how will the secularists respond? Will this be the last arena for them to try and bring down the ARC party?
No, well, secular forces are not trying to bring the AKP down through any mechanisms other than the elections. Again, let me please repeat. Democracy and democratically elected governments do not have automatic right to violate the laws or constitutional laws. In fact, let me please remind you the 1999 elections in Austria. There was Jörg Haider who got elected. He was far right. He belonged to a far-right activist group, and European Union countries issued sanctions against Austria if Haider presides over the government. So there are sensitivities in the society, there are sensitivities in Europe on certain issues. In Turkey, there are, just like in Germany or Austria, there are sensitivities towards racism or ultra-right. In Turkey, there is a sensitivity towards fundamentalist religious groups' activities.
But what about those who have a sensitivity towards what they deem to be extremists on the secular camp, trying to prevent them from expressing their freedom?
I'm sorry, I missed the question.
What about those who feel that it's the extremists on the secularist side that are trying to prevent them from expressing and living their lives freely?
Oh, no, that should not be obviously allowed, and that's, I don't think that's of any concern in Turkey. I don't believe that. If there is such a imposition, then my party would be definitely against that.
Well, surely it is, if I may, a final interjection for the many ladies who wear the headscarf who want to enjoy the right to education or a job in the public sector. They would argue that that's an infringement of their basic rights, would they not?
Well, let's not call that headscarf. My mother wore headscarf. There is a cultural headscarf in Turkey and in Islamic Turkish Muslims. This turban is like a uniform, and the Prime Minister himself admitted the fact that it's a political sign. It's like wearing a political sign on your jacket. So that's the problem with turban, number one. Number two problem with turban is the fact that I personally know many young girls who would not be able to attend the university because of their financial difficulties. But they are provided by fundamentalist religious groups certain scholarships in order to pursue education.
Right.
If the government provides the economic freedom, the other freedoms would follow.
All right, let's pick up back on track again. Let's go over to Kınıklıoğlu. What happens if the court decides to ban the ARC party? How will your party respond to that? Will you decide to perhaps regroup under a new name with a new program of action?
We don't know what the court will say. This is a process. The party will produce a defense, and it's going to probably go on for a couple of months, if not more. But let me pick up on what Mr. Coşkunoğlu said earlier. The European countries he was referring to that were imposing sanctions on Mr. Haider, who was a fascist and a racist, are the same countries who are condemning the court case against the AK Party. The United States and most of the free world, and to my best of my knowledge, many countries in the Middle East are extremely worried about the case. What Mr. Coşkinoğlu and many others in Turkey fail to understand is that closing parties in democracies is not a way to go about do things. The argument about contravening the law is false. Firstly, because there is no clear definition of secularism in this country. This is exactly what we are trying to do. We believe a woman 18 years of age who wants to go into university and chooses to wear a headscarf should be allowed to do so.
All right, if I may jump in, because time is running. Mr. Kılıçdaroğlu, on a point that you mentioned there, what about changing the constitution to prevent parties being banned? Is that something the AK Party would consider doing?
Yes, this is one thing that's being entertained. We also think there should be intermediary measures. There should be measures in case, as Mr. Coşkinoğlu argues, parties are acting in contravention to the Constitution. There should be warning mechanisms. Even if you play soccer, you first get a yellow card and then you get a red card. But I think a party that's running the country for the last 6 years has grown the economy, put the country into negotiations with the European Union, has embarked on a democratization drive unprecedented in Turkish history, has put Turkey on the map in the region and on a global scale in the foreign policy arena,
right.
Cannot be closed down.
Right.
By the charge of a prosecutor.
All right, I'm afraid we are running out of time. Sorry to interrupt you, Mr. Kılıçdaroğlu, but we are running out of time. I will have to thank our guests, Suad Kılıçdaroğlu, Osman Coşkinoğlu, and Doğu Ergil. Thank you all for being with us on this episode
May I
of
just
Inside
add
Story.
one sentence, please?
And thank you so much for joining us here on this edition of Inside Story. As always, we welcome your comments and suggestions. Feel free to email them to us at insidestory@aljazeera.net. For now, it's goodbye.